If you were fixing your bra straps, fussing with wires, or battling your bra during this podcast, stop right now. You'll want to hear this. Those bra problems, those problems you thought you had to live with, Third Love has solved them. Their bras make it easy to get what you want, whether it's ultimate cleavage, a smooth look, or stopping your shirt buttons from pulling. With over 60 sizes, including half cups you won't find anywhere else, you'll never be stuck between two sizes that don't fit. So stop settling for bad bras. Now's the time to treat yourself and get your problem solved. Save $15 on your first order with code podcast15 at thirdlove.com.
Hello, I'm Rabia Chaudhry. I invite you to join me every Tuesday for new episodes of Nighty Night Bedtime Stories to Keep You Awake, now on Podcast One. This new incarnation of Nighty Night is an anthology of stories that bring to life classic horror stories, some you're definitely familiar with, and others you'll be hearing for the first time. Join me as I tuck you into bed with stories that will leave you sleepless all night long. Get new episodes of Nighty Night every Tuesday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 342 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you, man?
Hey, man, I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Doing very well. Kind of gearing up for the holiday season.
Yeah.
Gearing up for a cruise that my wife booked for the family. I think she booked it in January, so she's been planning it for quite some time.
Yes, she has.
So.
Well, you still have time to get my gift, so, just keep working on it.
Yeah. Pretty easy to find a lump of coal.
No. I laid lists everywhere around this house as a reminder.
As a reminder of what you want?
Yeah.
Hey, let's go ahead and give our Patreon shout-outs. We had Stephanie Smith.
Hey, Stephanie.
Brenda Labine.
Oh, thank you, Brenda.
Canadian Murder Corner.
Well, thank you, Canadian Murder.
Jasmine Croy.
What's up, Croy?
Danielle Lepresti.
Oh, thanks, Danielle.
Stephanie.
Hey, Stephanie.
Tiffany Duncombe.
Oh, there's the Duncombe.
Kathleen Kent.
What's going on, Kathleen?
Michelle Walden.
Hey, thanks, Michelle.
Sharon and Joe Stasio.
Oh, thanks, Sharon and Joe.
Marie Larson.
Well, there you are, Marie. Thank you so much.
Kim Greenslade.
What's going on, Kim?
Tabby Sanchez.
Thanks, Sanchez.
And last but not least, Deb.
Just good old Deb.
Good old Deb. We appreciate the new support. And then if we go back into the vault, this week we selected Amy Wood.
Well, thanks, Amy.
Yeah, we appreciate that long-term support very, very much. We also had a PayPal donation from Kaylee Strzok.
Well, thanks, Callie. Did you say Callie?
Kaylee.
Or Kaylee?
But you say it however you want.
I will. Callie.
So, Gibbs, right now on True Crime All the Time, we have an episode out on Evelyn Dick. It's a pretty interesting case from Canada. It goes back to the 1940s, where there's a host of people, including Evelyn, who go on trial for the murder of her husband. And they also go on trial for the murder of her infant son.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
A whole lot going on.
So make sure you check that out. All right, buddy, are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved?
I'm ready.
We're talking about Rasheem Carter. Rasheem Carter was a 25-year-old man from Mississippi who went missing in October 2022. Rasheem, a black man, expressed concerns about his safety before he went missing and worried that his white coworker may do something to him. Rasheem's remains were found a month after he went missing. Although the local sheriff's department says they haven't found evidence of foul play, many people have alleged that his death is a modern-day lynching.
That's a serious statement.
No, it is. I mean, obviously, we have a young man who lost his life. But if it was racially motivated, then you're gonna add an element to the case.
For sure.
And it's also going to play into, I imagine, who the ultimate perpetrator is. Rasheem Carter was born on October 28, 1996. His parents are Tiffany Carter and Robert Fry. Rasheem was from Fayette, Mississippi. He graduated high school in 2015. In 2016, he graduated from Hines Community College with a degree in welding and cutting technology. Now, you can make a lot of money welding. Welders make good money.
Yeah. I can weld a few things here and there.
But you are not a welder by trade. You can do a lot of things.
I can.
But that doesn't mean that it's your trade or you make money doing them.
I thought about welding your truck doors closed for good, but then I realized that probably wouldn't go over very well.
Well, if we're talking about Encyclopedia Brown, the case of the welded truck doors, it's not going to be a real hard one to solve. First of all, I got cameras all over the front of my house. So when I see you in your Joseph A. Bank sweater, I'm going to know pretty quickly who it was. In August 2019, Rasheem opened a seafood restaurant called Callie's Express, which was named after his daughter. Unfortunately, his restaurant shut down during the pandemic. So I have a couple of thoughts there. It seemed strange to me when I first read that he made kind of what appears to be a rapid shift from, let's say, a trade like welding to opening and running a seafood restaurant.
I always wanted to have a restaurant, restaurant kind of a thing.
Yeah, I always have too, but I've always heard that they're so tough that most don't make it. Yeah. Now, you throw in the pandemic.
Oh, man.
And so many restaurants that were thriving
went down,
went under. So very bad timing. Now, obviously, there's no way he could have known that a year after starting this restaurant, we were going to experience what we did. At the time of his death, Rasheem was working as a millwright for Clements Mechanicals at the Georgia Pacific Company in downtown Taylorsville, Mississippi. He traveled often for work. Tiffany Carter, Rasheem's mother, said that he was saving money to reopen his restaurant. So, I mean, I take from that statement that he must have really loved it. He must have had a passion for it.
Well, I think you got to have a passion for something like that.
To make it work, to be successful. Yeah, it's probably a kind of all or nothing thing, right? At least in the early stages.
Yeah, I don't think you can go in at half-ass.
No, I think you're there all the time. You're putting in a lot of hours. In the fall of 2022, Rasheem was working for Georgia Pacific in Taylorsville. During this job, he was temporarily living with several other workers at a Motel 8 in Laurel, Mississippi, about 20 miles away.
I think that could go different ways, right? I think it could be kind of fun, all your work buddies, you're down there, you're working all day, and at nighttime, you're going out, maybe having a beer or two, grabbing a steak or
getting to know each other,
or a veggie sandwich, whatever your preference is, right? Getting to know each other and then coming on back and crashing. Or you might not get along with each other. That would be a different scenario. It'd be really tough, like if nobody likes you or there's like tension between a couple people in the room. It makes it for a very long week.
And you're away from home.
And you're away from home on top of it, missing your kid or kids.
His car broke down in September 2022. So he had to get rides from coworkers between Taylorsville and the motel. Rasheem texted and called his mother throughout October 1st and October 2nd of that year. On October 1st, he got into a verbal altercation with at least one coworker. Sources don't say what the argument was about. He got out of the car and started walking the 20-mile path to Taylorsville. So it must have been one heck of an argument to make him get out of the car and set off on foot for a 20-mile walk.
Yeah, that's a heck of a walk.
I could put up with a lot in a car, not to have to walk 20 miles.
I'm trying to think how many hours that would take you to do.
Days.
Yeah.
I'd have to camp.
You
several nights.
You wouldn't make it. They'd find you on the road. You would never make it.
Some of Rasheem's coworkers picked him up and drove him to the Family Dollar in Taylorsville. It was here that he called his mother, Tiffany, and told her he was having trouble getting a ride. He also said that someone called the store and asked if he was inside. Rasheem left when he heard the clerk say, "He's in here." So obviously he's relaying this to his mother.
Right.
I'm sure it had to worry her greatly. If the thought is someone is after you, maybe because of this verbal altercation or whatever it was, and they're calling around looking for you, and the clerk says, "He's in here." Okay. I could see where, there would be some trepidation there.
Well,
I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
They're coming to get me. According to Tiffany, Rasheem said he was being followed by 3 trucks, inside of which were racist white men trying to kill me. That's what he told her. He also said that these men were calling him racial slurs. According to ABC, Rasheem sent his mother a detailed text about his concerns for his safety. He named someone in his text that he believed was threatening him. This person was in a position of authority at his workplace, and I guess he and Rasheem were not seeing eye to eye. Per Business Insider, according to ABC, part of his text read, "If anything happens, he's responsible for it. I'm too smart, mama. He got these guys wanting to kill me."
Now, as a mother, on the other end of these text messages, you have to be freaking out.
Yeah, no, I think she had to have been. But I just want to break down kind of what he's saying. This is not just a coworker, the person that he's naming. This is a person who was said to be in a position of authority.
Right.
So that means at least some type of boss, manager, whatever the title may have been. And then he goes on to say that this person has got other people out here wanting to kill me.
He's worked the rest of the group up or part of the group up to go against me.
That's what it sounds like. The FBI and the police have this information, according to the Jackson Advocate. Now, sources differ on the exact timing and events of the day, but the Jackson Advocate reported that Rasheem worked a 9-hour shift in Taylorsville and was then trying to find a ride back to the motel. His coworker and roommate said he couldn't ride with him anymore. All right, that's a tough position to be in. We rely on our cars so much for everything.
We really do.
And when you don't have one or yours is broken down, and you're relying on other people for ride, that's tough in and of itself because you never know if they're going to show up, they're going to be late. But this is a different situation. He's trying to get people to help him, but there's a whole bunch of these coworkers who apparently don't like him.
Yeah, they don't want nothing to do with him.
Making it even tougher. Rasheem went to a junior food mart downtown and offered people gas money for a ride, but no one would take him. And I don't know if that's all that unusual. You think about the world we live in today. If a stranger comes up to you and says, "I will give you $10, $20 if you will, drive me 20 minutes down the road."
Yeah.
There's a part of me that wants to be a good Samaritan, wants to be a good person and help other people. And then there's that other part of me that has no idea who this person is or, what they're capable of.
Yeah.
And am I putting my own safety at risk by, giving this person a ride?
I think a lot of people do feel like they're putting themselves at risk, so they decline helping somebody.
Well, just by the definition, you are putting yourself at risk because you don't know the person.
Yeah.
They could be a great human being. They could be a serial killer.
Right.
There's no way for you to know. And it's that balancing act between, wanting to help people, wanting to be a nice person, but also making sure that you're taking care of yourself, your family, anybody else who might be with you. It's tough.
Yeah.
If it was the 1950s, you just take somebody and they don't even pay you, right? You need to go down the road, I'll take you down the road. Not that there weren't killers in the 1950s, there were, but people just seemed like they were far more trusting, helpful. Rasheem went to the Taylorsville police station and asked if they had an Uber service or if they could take him back to the hotel. They said they could only take him somewhere in Taylorsville. No one knows where Rasheem slept. On October 1st, Rasheem returned to downtown Taylorsville on the 2nd. At 5:50 a.m., his phone was dying and he needed a charger. He went to the police station again that morning. After leaving the police station, Rasheem went to the Family Dollar, where he called his mother at 10:15 a.m. His phone was at 1%. He told her he couldn't get a ride to his motel, and she agreed to send someone to pick him up. Rasheem dropped a pin to show his location.
You ever dropped a pin?
I don't know that I have. I mean, I have a vague understanding of what that means, but I wouldn't even know how to drop a pin.
I was wondering if you just knew how to.
No. I understand in theory how it works. Now, this case is a year old, essentially. So, it's interesting when we talk about how technology is used versus a case that might be 20 or 30 years old, where number one, you wouldn't maybe have a cell phone. You're having to use a payphone and give somebody directions. Now you can drop a pin and somebody knows exactly where you are.
Yeah.
But I really want to talk about desperation. How desperate Rasheem seems to have been during this period.
Well, couldn't catch a ride back to the hotel. Had to sleep somewhere, right, that night. Nobody knows where. Couldn't even get someone to help him charge his phone. He's at 1%.
Went to the police station multiple times.
Yeah.
I think there was only so much they could do for him. But the desperation of being at 1%, you've got no car, you've got no ride. So it seems to me like the cell phone is his lifeline at this point in time.
And once that goes, you lost that.
Rasheem's aunt, Marnie Tompkins, spoke to the Jackson Advocate and indicated that the conversation between Rasheem and Tiffany about his coworkers, where he said something to the effect of, "If I come up missing, there are 3 trucks of white men after me." This took place on October 2nd. She also indicated that he named the individual from work on this day and said, "Mama, I'm smart. I'm not crazy." However, the Mississippi Free Press reported that this conversation took place on October 1st. So there's some discrepancy, and we said sources differ on, different aspects of this case.
But the key thing is the conversation happened.
Yes. Whether it happened on the 1st or the 2nd, I guess we'll have to see if that is a big deal or not. My thought is no. Rasheem left the Family Dollar after talking to his mom. Tiffany sent her friend, Isha Green, to pick Rasheem up, but it took her several hours to drive there. She arrived in Taylorsville around 1:30 to 2 p.m. and couldn't find him at his pinned location. She waited for him at a gas station and drove to several stores looking for him. She also drove to his hotel in Laurel, but couldn't find him.
Well, I'm sure Isha is concerned and maybe a little frustrated, driving around, can't find him. But Tiffany definitely would be concerned once she learns from Isha that she can't find him.
Tiffany reported Rasheem missing on October 2nd in Laurel, Mississippi. She told the police that he said there were 3 trucks full of white men who were trying to kill him, according to Laurel Police Chief Tommy Cox. The Laurel police started looking into Rasheem as a missing person. But on October 7th, the Taylorsville police contacted Tiffany and told her they searched for Rasheem but had not found him. On October 8th, Tiffany and her family started the Carter Family Support Search Team. They did a search in Taylorsville and passed out flyers. And we hear about this in many cases where somebody goes missing. I do think it's extremely important to get organized quickly, to start quickly, and it sounds like they did.
Yeah, I think it's pretty critical that you get on it right away.
Because the police are going to do their thing, hopefully.
Yes.
You hope that they will. But I think as the family, you're also trying to get the word out. You're trying to get people to, rally some support. Maybe you get people to help search. And to do that, you're going to pass out flyers, get the word out there. Maybe somebody's seen him and can provide some valuable information.
Yeah, anything could help at this point.
Angie's List is now Angie, the home to skilled neighborhood professionals. Angie is your home for everything home, and they've made it easier than ever to connect with skilled professionals to get all your home projects done well. If you own a home, you know how much work it can take, whether it's everyday maintenance and repairs or making dream projects a reality. It can be hard just to know where to start, but now all you need to do is Angie that and find a skilled local pro who will deliver the quality and expertise you need. Angie has over 20 years of home service experience, and they've combined it with new tools to simplify the whole process. Bring them your project online or with the Angie app. Answer a few questions, and Angie can handle the rest from start to finish, or help you compare quotes from multiple pros and connect instantly. And all of that means you can take care of just about any home project in just a few taps, because when it comes to getting the most out of your home, you can do this when you Angie that. Download the free Angie mobile app today or visit Angie.com. That's ANGI.com. Hey, TCAT fans, today's sponsor is Via Hemp Company. They sell a wide range of CBD and THC products in all 50 states and are shipped discreetly to your door. One of their most popular products, the low-dose gummies, are a perfect way to microdose THC. Microdosing is when you use a small amount of THC in order to gain the benefits of cannabis without experiencing a strong psychoactive effect. My wife and I have tried a lot of their products. My wife loves their CBD products. I really like the low-dose gummy. Via uses compounds found in hemp, along with functional plant extracts, to create products with a specific effect in mind. So whether you're looking to get better sleep, ease anxiety, or enhance your mood, they have something for you. If you are 21 or over and want to try their products, go to viahemp.com and use code TrueCrime for 15% off. Plus, they will add a free pack of their award-winning THC gummies to your order. Go to viahemp.com and use code TrueCrime for 15% off plus free gummies. According to Rasheem's aunt Marnie Tompkins, the family went into the Family Dollar store on October 8th and asked if anyone had reviewed the store's video footage. They were told no and allowed Tiffany to look through footage from October 2nd to October 8th. She recorded the video with her phone. The video shows Rasheem walking up the aisles and talking on the phone. He was recorded walking out of the store, but the outdoor footage had a limited view. It appeared as though he was heading towards the police station.
Well, at least they have some type of marking, right? Time frame that they can go off of.
Yeah, I'm sure the video's time-stamped, and they have a direction at least of which way he was headed. But it's not a lot. You'd have to say that.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing that they even allowed her to view the footage.
Yeah.
I was shocked by that. According to Marnie, some of the search group spoke to an officer who was cooperative until he said, "We were acting like he was trying to cover up something," per the Jackson Advocate. He was defensive until the family assured him they weren't accusing the police department of anything. The officer said that Rasheem came into the station and asked if they had an Uber service. They said no, so he went outside and sat on a bench.
I tell you, when you go to some of these rural towns and things like that, you miss services like Uber and DoorDash.
Yeah. If you're used to them, you do miss them. Now, if you live there all your life, you don't miss it at all.
No, that's true.
You don't use Uber and you don't use DoorDash or Grubhub or any of those. But I do want to talk about, how important is it, Gibbs, for the family and, some of these different police agencies to be on the same page? Because by my way of thinking, it's critical. And it sounds like there was, at least according to Marnie, a period there where things almost got off on the wrong foot between the two camps. And that wouldn't be good at all.
No, because you You need to work with the police.
But you want them on your side.
Yeah.
If they're out there, searching for your lost loved one. According to the Jackson Advocate, on November 1st, Smith County Sheriff Joel Houston contacted Tiffany and asked if she could identify a man captured on a hunter's video camera in a wooded area south of Taylorsville. She confirmed that the man in the picture looked like Rasheem. So Rasheem was captured by a hunter's trail camera at 4:32 p.m. on October 2nd. According to Business Insider, Tiffany was only shown one image, not the entire footage. In the image, Rasheem is shirtless and carrying what looks like a large branch. The property owner shared the footage with the police when he discovered it in mid-October, according to NBC. Tiffany later told Business Insider that it looked like Rasheem was running for his life. She said, "You could see there are bruises on him. When I see that picture, I know my son was somewhere struggling, somewhere running for his life. I really believe he was chased there."
So you think the large branch was a defense?
A defensive weapon?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. It sounds like a very strange situation. Number one, why is he not wearing a shirt? And why is he carrying this large branch? I think you can see why Tiffany thought, okay, somebody's after him. He's scared. He's running for his life.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how this trail camera worked exactly. My understanding is that some of them take actual video, but I thought a lot of trail cameras, because they're up for long periods of time, take snapshots.
Yeah.
To show deer or, animals or whatever. So I don't know what type this one actually was. On November 2nd, 2022, human remains were found in a wooded deer park off Highway 37, a mile south of Taylorsville. Officials were led to this area because of the game camera. These remains were identified as Rasheem Carter. So I think the timeline here is worth talking about. He's captured on the trail camera on October 2nd, but that video wasn't shared until mid-October. And then his remains are found on November 2nd. Now, it was said that the game camera led officials to his body. My thought is that it had to have been maybe the direction in which he was walking is what they based their search efforts on. That's the only thing I could come up with.
That makes sense to me.
But even still, it took them a couple of weeks,
Yeah.
let's say, to find his body. Rasheem's skull and spinal cord were found in different places, which technically classified them as two sets of remains, according to ABC. Rasheem's remains were found about 30 yards away from where he was seen on camera. His wallet containing cards and cash, ID, jeans, keys, vape, and phone battery were found with his body, but his phone has not been found. So now when we go back to the timeline, he's found only 300 yards away from where the camera was, and it took him 2 weeks, roughly. That seems strange to me.
It does, but I think we've covered other cases where the body or the remains were found pretty close to where they held the search.
Yeah. And then I think, the second thing that jumps out at me here is he's got all this stuff on him. Wallet, credit cards, cash, but not his phone. But he has his phone battery. That seems very odd to me.
So why would you want to take someone's phone?
I mean, the first thought that runs through my mind is, maybe he was able to snap a picture.
Yeah.
Or, something like that of his attackers, or I don't know what else it would be.
Some type of text messaging.
Or somebody sent a text message to him, maybe to lure him to a specific location or something like that. Because everybody loves their phone, their cell phone.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody just willingly leaves it behind or, knowingly throws it away. I get it. The battery was at 1%. It was, almost dead, but you're not just going to discard your phone.
Yeah, I mean, this definitely it wasn't a robbery because the cash was still there. It wasn't like somebody came along and just took everything, right? Because the ID, the cash, the car keys. But for whatever reason, the phone's missing, and that, I think you're right. I think there was probably something on there somebody didn't want anybody else to see.
The Smith County Sheriff's Office released the following statement on Facebook. On Tuesday, November 2nd, 2022, Smith County Sheriff's Department located the remains of Rasheem Carter just south of Taylorsville, Mississippi, in a wooded area. Thank you to the public who turned in pertinent information regarding Carter's whereabouts. At this time, we have no reason to believe foul play was involved, but the case is still under investigation. The remains were transported to the Mississippi Crime Lab for DNA confirmation. We want to reiterate that this is an ongoing investigation. Other agencies, including MBI and FBI, have assisted as well. All details have been given solely to the mother, and if and when she wants anything additional released, or if we find anything else that the public needs to know, we will release that information at that time. And I do think it's important to, parse out the words in some of these statements because, Gibbs, these are written very carefully.
Oh, of course.
Somebody sits down and writes them and they analyze them before somebody delivers the words. And there are some big things in here. No reason to believe foul play was involved, but the case is still under investigation. They even say it again, right? We want to reiterate that this is an ongoing investigation. And then I think at the end, when they talk about if we find anything else that the public needs to know, we'll release that information. Well, they're the ones that make that decision.
Of course they are.
And that's what you and I talk about all the time. There are a lot of things that the authorities know that they decide it's best not to release to the public because it could jeopardize, the case, if they were to take it to trial or whatever.
Yeah.
Scare a suspect off. There's a number of different reasons why they don't release stuff.
This statement of no foul play.
I think that was the biggest part that people took from this statement that was released. It did lead to a lot of public outrage because I think just like you said it right there, you sounded a little skeptical.
Oh, yeah.
I think a lot of people were skeptical about this part of the statement. Well, how could there not be foul play?
And I think that's where it would have made more sense if you would have said, we don't believe there's foul play because we believe this happened, right?
Yeah, but they don't say that.
They don't. You have to give me something else. Otherwise, I'm thinking you found the skull here, the spine here, happened to be where he's on video or picture. It looks like he's running or maybe running.
Mm-hmm. Shirtless.
And then you talk about all the messages between him and his mom. It's a concern. And you're not doing anything to alleviate that concern.
Yeah, because what's the alternative? If there's no foul play involved, then you're looking at Rasheem dying of exposure to the elements. Maybe he was attacked by, some kind of an animal.
Yeah.
There's really not a whole lot of different things that it could be. In late November, Smith County Sheriff Joel Houston spoke to the Jackson Advocate and said they had followed up on leads, but had no conclusive findings. After they received the camera footage of Rasheem, they brought in cadaver dogs that led them to the remains. That month, Joel Houston told the Vicksburg Daily News that Rasheem didn't say he was in danger when he went to the police, and he didn't seem to be in distress. The police offered to let him use their phone. Rasheem said he had his phone. They offered him a charger, but it wasn't compatible. It had been reported that $500 was withdrawn from Rasheem's bank account on October 4th. His family said they didn't believe he was the one who withdrew the money. And to me, this is another key piece of this case. This $500 withdrawal. This occurred 2 days after he was reported missing.
And sometimes at most banks, $500 is the max you can take out.
Yeah, that's a lot. I've been to a lot of ATMs where they wouldn't even let you take that much out.
Yeah. So it's bizarre.
It just seems very strange for him to, be calling his mom at least once a day and then not call for a couple of days after someone is sent to pick him up. And then all of a sudden he withdraws money. I mean, your mind wants to go to a scenario where someone did something bad to him and then later withdrew $500 from his account.
Yeah.
Tiffany Carter told the Vicksburg Daily News, whoever drew that money out, the Smith County Sheriff's Department knows it's a time frame when to check that footage. From my understanding, they have been going back and forth with Chime to get them to release the card number to see where the money was withdrawn from. And I think what his mother is saying here makes a lot of sense. She doesn't believe her son withdrew this money. So whoever did, quite possibly, is a person who was involved in his death.
And could potentially be located.
Yeah, I mean, ATM machines, if they could figure out which one the money was taken out of,
Right.
They've had security camera / picture taking capabilities for a very long time.
I almost think every one of them today at least snaps a quick picture once you insert your card.
There's something that records who you are. Now, someone could maybe mask up or try to hide their identity. Sheriff Houston told the Vicksburg Daily News that it took a while to get the bank records back. They didn't know about the cash withdrawal until the first week of November. They obtained Rasheem's full Chime card number after they issued a subpoena or search warrant. The last time the card was used was on August 13th. So there was no proof that $500 was withdrawn from his account in October. Additionally, his card was found with his body. In a later interview, Houston would attribute this to errant reporting or a lag in paperwork. So he's admitting that it took a while for them to figure it out, but once they did,
there was no evidence that a withdrawal happened in October.
Yeah, and I think the fact that the card was found with his body would make it unlikely that 2 days after he is seen, somebody else withdraws $500, and then they figured out that it didn't happen. Sheriff Houston also addressed the family's claim that Rasheem heard a Family Dollar cashier say, "Yeah, he is in here." He said the cashier, quote, had no knowledge of that. And I wasn't 100% sure what he meant by that. No knowledge when asked whether he said that or not is what I'm assuming, as though he said he didn't say it or didn't remember it.
I don't know if somebody would remember what they said on a certain night. So maybe he was just like, yeah, I don't recall saying that, but
yeah, it's just unclear.
Yeah.
A little unclear. In early December 2022, the Natchez Trace reported that Taylorsville Police Chief Gabe Horn spoke with them and said Rasheem was seen on security footage in Taylorsville for 14 hours before he disappeared. He said that Rasheem made a report with the department, but refused when he was asked if he wanted to press charges. On December 8th, Rasheem's aunt Felicia Cahoe made a Facebook post refuting this claim, saying, "I read an article yesterday in the Natchez Democrat about Rasheem Rael Carter. First off, the Taylorsville Police Department told my family they knew nothing about him being chased by anyone. They said he didn't act like anything was wrong, but you told these people this." And Gibbs, I kind of see the angle, from which, she's coming at this. They did come out and say that they had no knowledge of him. They said he wasn't fearful. But then when you come out and say that he made a report with the department. Now, it doesn't say what was in the report.
Right.
But what else would he make a report about? And then he, when asked, refused to press charges.
It's going to be confusing to the family.
I think it is. It's almost like there's two different stories.
Yeah. So, tell us the truth, what really was said and done that on those days, so we all could be on the same page together.
Well, obviously, he didn't go into the police department to make a report that his phone battery was dying.
No, that doesn't make any sense.
There was something that rose to the level worth making a police report. And you almost have to couple that with, the statements that his mother said that he made. That would rise to the level of needing to go into the police department and make a report. He was fearful for his life. The problem is we don't know that for sure. You need the details.
We do need the details.
In December 2022, Tiffany Carter spoke with local station WDAM and said Rasheem needed a ride back to Laurel, but the Taylorsville police wouldn't take him there. The Jackson Advocate reported that Rasheem was dismissed at the police station. Now, earlier in the episode, we talked about how the police said that they couldn't take him somewhere past or outside of Taylorsville.
Yeah. They were limited to the city limits.
And if that's the policy, okay, I understand that. But it was also talked about with him not being fearful. Now, if he was fearful and if he did make a report, does that then have to be taken into consideration? Or is the policy and there is nothing that changes it? Chief Gabe Horn told WDAM that they couldn't give Rasheem a ride due to staffing issues and liability concerns, saying he told the officer that night that he and his roommates had a verbal disagreement and he felt threatened, and that was it. Rasheem did tell the officer that night that was up here that he had a ride coming, and the officer advised him, "You're more than welcome to stay at the police department," but he said, "No, sir, I dropped a pin where I wanted to be picked up."
So now they're acknowledging that he did tell them that he had a disagreement and felt like his life was being threatened.
Yeah, he felt threatened. Rasheem was seen by an officer the next morning when he asked for a charger for his phone. And as we mentioned, the charger didn't fit his phone. What's interesting to me is that a lot of these stories have the same elements in them. I think what a lot of people point out and are bothered by is the statement that he didn't seem concerned when he was at the police station. That seems to be at odds with some of these later statements that come out.
Yeah.
On March 13th, 2023, Rasheem's mother and family attorney Benjamin Crump held a press conference about his case. Benjamin Crump is a high-profile lawyer who has represented the families of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd. Crump, at the March 13th conference, said, "There is nothing natural about this. It screams out for justice. What we have is a Mississippi lynching." According to NBC, Crump said at the press conference, "One thing is for certain. This was not a natural killing. This was not a natural death. This represents a young man who was killed." He used the press conference to request a federal probe into the case by the Department of Justice. He also released the findings of an independent autopsy. It was reported that Rasheem's head was severed from his body and that his spinal cord was found in a separate area. According to NBC, his front teeth were missing from the top and bottom rows, which could indicate he was assaulted.
Doesn't sound good.
No, it doesn't sound good at all. But his cause and manner of death are undetermined.
I don't know any type of animal in Mississippi that could
kill a full-grown human.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to think. I've not been to Mississippi a lot, so I don't know everything that they have down there.
I mean, their most dangerous things are snakes and spiders, that they're just, unless you're going to go out into the ocean, maybe, wrestle with a shark, but that's it. I don't think there's a whole lot of other things out there.
Yeah, I'll defer to you on that one. I don't know all the different things, but when you think about his head being severed, his teeth being knocked out, okay, could that come from some type of predator animal? Possibly, but like you said, I don't know what it would be in Mississippi. I really don't.
I mean, I would think that the sheriff would have brought up wild dogs or wolves or things like that. But they never did.
Or wolves, similar to wolves?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure. Yeah, I don't know that you can take it off the table. But I think it's fair to say that Rasheem's family, the family's attorney, they don't believe that this was anything other than a person or persons who killed him. The autopsy report states that the condition of the remains made it difficult to determine the exact timing of the injuries. There were also signs of animal activity, which further complicated the exam. And that's where my head kind of went, how much of that damage happened after he was already deceased?
Yeah. Yeah.
Scavenger.
Exactly.
So we're not talking about an animal that could take down, a human adult and kill them. But we do know there are a lot of scavenger animals who could have done some of the damage. And the problem is the timing of when they found the remains. You just can't tell much from the autopsy unless there was a bullet wound in the head or, some type of knife mark or bullet mark on the bones and the rib cage. I just don't know what you're going to be able to tell.
And that's what complicates this.
CNN reported that Ben Crump said the autopsy from the state medical examiner's office found that Rasheem was dismembered. CNN obtained a copy and noted that the autopsy did not specify dismemberment, but the remains were found across a 2-acre area and were scavenged by animals. So again, there are a lot of questions there that we can't answer. Was he decapitated? Was he dismembered? Or did scavenger type animals scatter his remains after he was already dead? And even if they did, we still have the question of how he died in the first place.
Right. How did that happen?
Crump also said at the press conference, according to ABC, that they have recently found remains that they believe are also Rasheem Carter at another part of where he went missing. And what that tells us is this was a nefarious act. This was an evil act. Somebody murdered Rasheem Carter, and we cannot let them get away with this. And I would say, if that's what happened, if he was murdered, then this guy's absolutely correct. You can't let whoever did this to him get away with it. I think right now we're just missing a lot of the details that would allow us to say definitively this happened or that happened.
Right. Yeah, you need those details.
Tiffany Carter spoke as well, saying, "My son told me that it was 3 truckloads of white guys trying to kill him. And at the time that he told me as a mother, I had to think fast. So I told him to go to the police station because I felt in my heart they would serve and protect like they are obligated to." Crump added, "This doesn't seem like the act of just one individual. It kind of lines up with what Tiffany said. There was a lynch mob of 3 trucks chasing her son before he went missing." And I do think that is one of the things that absolutely could have happened.
Well, I think that's exactly what the family thinks.
Oh, I know it's what the family thinks.
Yeah.
Smith County Sheriff Joel Houston did several interviews with media outlets in response to the press conference. On March 14th, he told NBC they had interviewed everyone involved with Rasheem's work, including 4 to 5 people he mentioned to his mother as potential threats. They were ruled out based on phone records and GPS coordinates that showed their devices were almost 100 miles away from Taylorsville at another job site.
Okay, so that could be potentially hard to dispute.
It could be. I mean, if you were talking about one person, could you say that they put their phone somewhere and then left and went and did this? Well, you could say 4 or 5 people could do that too.
Sure, you could.
But are you telling me there was nobody else at this job site who did or did not corroborate that these people were there at the time that their phone says they were? And if there were, then, I mean, at the very least, you'd have to say that would be some pretty good exculpatory evidence if it ever came to trial. Rasheem's colleagues and supervisor mentioned in interviews that he had not been himself for about a week. His demeanor had changed. He normally liked to joke around, but he had stopped doing this and was keeping to himself.
So they thought he was a different person.
He was acting differently, but let me say this. Wouldn't you be acting differently if you thought people were threatening you? Would you be less jokey? Would you be more introverted?
Sure you would be.
So
yeah, you'd be scared.
I don't know what that means. And it also says colleagues and supervisor. Well, those are some of the people he was afraid of. So I just don't know. Sheriff Houston mentioned that the sheriff's department submitted a search warrant to Google to try to see if any devices pinged in the area where Rasheem's remains were found. They had been working on this since mid-November. According to CNN, Houston said there was no evidence to support the allegations that Rasheem was being chased by others. He told Insider that everything is still on the table, but they still had not found evidence of foul play. And I absolutely understand that. You can't say it's foul play when you have nothing to support it. Now, you can sit here and ask the questions we're asking. How does this man die out in the woods? Did he, succumb to the elements? Or was there really someone or multiple people after him, they chasing him and they killed him? And maybe there's something else that I'm just completely not thinking about as, other possibilities.
Yeah, I just don't know. I mean, I think the problem is that the autopsy is not going to be very helpful.
No, because of the state that the remains were in when they were found.
Yeah.
It makes it so tough. Houston noted that nothing has changed since they first announced they did not suspect foul play. When they made that announcement, they had already followed up on leads and excluded potential suspects. He continued by saying, at this point, we're just trying to rule out any possibility of anybody being present in his last time alive. The evidence we have right now is not showing anybody with him. Well, obviously, if they had evidence, let's say a phone ping that put, other people in the area of his remains around the time that they thought he was there, that would be a game changer.
Sure it would be.
Houston told Business Insider that they reviewed all of the hunter's camera footage and it does not show anybody else in the area with Rasheem. He addressed Tiffany's statement that it looked like Rasheem had bruises on his body and said that the bruises appeared to be shadows. And this is not by any stretch, Gibbs, the first case that we have done on Unsolved where the family and the authorities have opposing viewpoints on how things occurred or what they believe occurred. It happens quite frequently.
No, and I get it. I mean, a parent might see bruises when, somebody else sees shadows. It's just perception. It's going to happen.
But isn't it also maybe a difference of what the family believes in their heart versus what the police can prove or have evidence of?
Yeah.
I think oftentimes that's the difference.
It is.
In late March 2023, Rasheem's former boss, Luke Clements, talked to News Nation Now to deny any involvement in his death. He said he had been targeted online and that he, his wife, and children received death threats. Okay, that's horrible on its own if this guy really had nothing to do with the death of Rasheem Carter. According to Inside Edition, late that month, the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation confirmed a forensic anthropology examination was completed on February 2nd, 2023, and they could not determine the cause of death.
So it's going to remain a very difficult crime or non-crime to solve.
It just continues to be very tough to figure out what happened. But you had the autopsy. Now they went, an extra step. They did a forensic anthropology examination, and they still really have nothing in the way of cause of death. The family and community held a protest on April 29th, 2023, after they were notified that a third set of remains had been found and identified as Rasheem Carter. The Mississippi Crime Lab informed the family that remains found in Smith County on February 23rd matched Rasheem's DNA. Ben Crump said in a statement that the family was notified through email and were not offered a meeting with officials.
That's pretty, if that's true, that's pretty crappy.
Yeah, it really is. If they send an email rather than, showing up in person or, inviting them to come in for a sit down meeting, or at the very least a phone call, would be better than an email. According to ABC, Crump also said that officials recanted their statement that no foul play was involved. From the beginning of this case, the family has been misled. He said, at first, when the first of Rasheem's remains were discovered with his head decapitated from his body, officials told the family that it was animals that killed Rasheem. Then officials admitted that they believed he was murdered. A few days later, the family's attorney claimed that a fourth set of remains were found on April 30th and identified as Rasheem Carter. At a press conference on May 11th, Crump said officials hadn't notified the family of the fourth set of the human remains. A bystander filmed them and sent the video of the remains to the family. He said, per ABC, there is no excuse for bystanders coming, showing video to the family, and officials not having the dignity and respect to notify the family immediately and say, we found more human remains in the vicinity where your son's head and spinal cord and other bodily remains were found. Now, this to me seems to be a little bit of a different situation. You have somebody out there taking video and then running to show it to the family. I don't agree with that. I don't think that's the right thing to do. But I'm sure, Gibbs, at that point, there's been no testing done on the remains, not only to see if they, belong to Rasheem Carter, but to see if they're even human. Now, maybe they could tell just by looking at them that they were human. But how can you notify the family until you've confirmed the identity of the remains? I guess you could reach out to them and just say, we found some remains. We don't know
we sent them
whose they are. Yeah. I guess you could do that. Maybe that's what he's railing against.
I'm also surprised that they recanted their statement about foul play, according to Crump.
Well, again, that's what he's saying. Tiffany said at the press conference, I am overwhelmed with the oppression that this state have caused in our lives. I want something done, and I want it done immediately. I'm tired of waiting. I know I can't change what has happened, but we can make the change that this doesn't happen to another family. Mississippi state officials told ABC that they received the first three sets of remains from local authorities. Simpsons County Sheriff Paul Mullins confirmed that remains were found in the woods on April 30th. They appeared to be animal bones, but were sent to the county coroner for examination. So if that is true, if they looked at them and thought they were animal bones, would it be right to reach out to the family? And I don't know the correct answer to that question, because what could you say? We found some bones. We believe they're animal bones, but we're sending them off to be tested. That's all you could say.
Yeah, I don't know if that would warrant a communication.
Because I think some people would make the case that that would be very upsetting to the family for no reason.
Yeah. I think the prior one definitely should have had the proper communication.
But where they sent the email,
yeah.
But I don't agree with that one at all.
Yeah, on this one here, I think until there's no reason to get the family upset.
Well, especially if you think they're animal bones. I just don't know what you're telling the family. Smith County Sheriff Joel Houston told ABC that they stand behind their determination, and earlier evidence didn't suggest anything. He said the department is awaiting the results of search warrants before they rule out foul play. He added, nothing is being swept under the rug. There's nothing to hide. I think the one thing that I am sure of in this case is that Rasheem's family is very distrustful of police. And some of that you could say is probably warranted.
Yeah.
But I don't know if all of it is.
But you know what? Once you've kind of been dealt that in the beginning.
Once you lose the trust.
Yeah.
It is kind of hard.
you kind of look at it from that point on that
we got to question everything.
Everything.
Yeah, I get that. On May 15th, Chris Hennis, the Smith County DA, disputed that the remains were human remains and said they were animal bones. He wrote that a day after the press conference, he received oral confirmation from the Mississippi Crime Lab that the bones were indeed animal bones. He wrote, unlike Attorney Ben Crump, my office, as well as law enforcement, has a responsibility to the Carter family and to the public to base the investigation on facts and evidence developed during the investigation, not on reckless speculation and conjecture. Such misinformation only serves to slow down and hinder the ongoing investigation. Mr. Crump's statement questioning my office and law enforcement's dignity and respect toward Rasheem Carter's family by not notifying them of new remains was not only completely baseless, it also appears to be callously made to inflame public opinion. I'm not sure he's wrong. I mean, you can look at both sides and pick out moments where what they did might not have been the right way to go.
You definitely see the heat on both sides.
Oh, and there seems to be tension. He wrote, the incident that Attorney Ben Crump reported as found near the vicinity and that which he believes belonged to Rasheem Carter were actually bones found some 25 miles away in a creek in Simpson County, Mississippi on April 30th, 2023. The bones were suspected to be animal bones, and this information was shared with the family of Rasheem Carter. Hennis wrote that the local sheriff notified the family on May 4th that the remains were suspected to be animal bones. Now, that was probably 4 or 5 days after somebody had shown them the video.
Right.
But again, you go back to, what is the right thing to do? Call them as soon as you find anything? I don't know that that is the right thing to do. Now, if you suspected that they were human remains, and if they were found in the vicinity of where the previous remains were found, would it be the right thing to do? Yeah.
I also think, if you have bystanders standing around taking video, you might want to just head it off, and tell the family.
I don't even know if they knew. I don't know that the police were there when this guy was taking video, or they knew he was taking video.
Yeah, that's true too. I mean,
I have no idea.
So many unknowns.
Sure. They could have thought, well, why would somebody take a video of these animal bones and run and show the Carter family? Some of these cases are tough, Gibbs, because I see both sides of certain situations.
Yeah.
I really do.
And you can argue.
There's a fine line between what should and shouldn't happen in some of these instances. Now, some, they're blatant.
Right.
And they're easy to see. This person messed up, or this side is doing something that they shouldn't be doing. But I don't know that everything is that way. In October 2023, a year after Rasheem was reported missing, Tiffany Carter told ABC that they hadn't been updated on new developments for several months, and they have not received his remains. Currently, a national nonprofit called You Are the Power is offering a $50,000 reward in Rasheem's case. You can submit a tip at youarethepower.net/tips. So as we wrap up this episode, I think because Rasheem Carter's cause and manner of death are undetermined, investigators have not completely ruled out foul play. They can't completely rule it out because they don't know the cause of death. Now, it may be likely that they suspect there was no foul play in this case. And you could take that from previous comments that certain people have made. I don't think there's any doubt that Rasheem's family and a lot of people online believe that the suspicious circumstances surrounding his death indicate that someone wanted to harm him. And maybe that's the one thing that I haven't talked about enough. It would be one thing for Rasheem Carter to be found out in the woods, dead, right? For his remains to be found with nothing coming prior to that.
Yeah.
But I think what a lot of people point to, are these conversations that he had with his mom, that he felt threatened, that, truckloads of white men were after him. And then all of a sudden he goes missing and they find his remains. That's tough for a lot of people to discount.
Yeah.
And I understand why. It's a frustrating case all the way around.
It is.
And I think you've hit on it a number of times, but probably, one of the most frustrating things is that they can't determine the cause of death. And so, without that, where do they go? You can't classify something as a homicide, right?
No.
If you have no cause or manner of death. I'm not sure what the rules are in Mississippi, but it would be hard to, but it would be, to me, also hard to discount the information that we know about that occurred prior to his death and then assume that he was the victim of an accident or animals or something like that. A lot of people just don't buy it.
I wonder if the FBI will ever get more involved. I mean, if they ever actually can prove that it was a hate crime.
Oh, then absolutely.
Then they will be. But I just wonder if the FBI will ever get more involved, or at this point they're
or the DOJ or any,
Yeah.
federal agency. I guess my question is, if they do get involved, what do they have to work with? Because that's what I think is the problem in this case. There seems to be very little with which to work off. Now, one thing that would probably happen is maybe you alleviate some of the concerns on the part of the family that some of these local agencies that they're having difficulties with, they believe they're not doing things the way they should. Maybe some of that goes away.
Maybe.
If you have a federal agency that kind of takes over, but I don't know. This is a tough one. It's still very early on. This occurred last year. And I think everyone wants to see some type of resolution. They want an answer. And if this was a hate crime, if this was a murder, then you want, and I think everybody does, those people or individual responsible to pay for what they did.
Yeah, of course.
But that's it for our episode on Rasheem Carter. We got some voicemails, Gibbs. You want to check those out?
Let's hear them.
Hi, Mike and Gibby. I am a recently new listener. I've been binging your guys' podcast for a while now, so I love it. I listen to it all the time, even when I'm home, like cleaning and stuff like that. So long story short, I have 3 giant dogs, and whenever at the beginning of your podcast you go into the Patreon and then you go into the vault, and that little sound bit that plays when you say that, it's like a little squeak at the end of that sound. That sounds exactly like our front door opening, and our dogs go absolutely insane every single time they hear it, and there's nothing I can do about it because I'm going to listen to your podcast anyways. So I just have to deal with them barking at that moment in time, and then the moment is over. So it's just it's not going to stop me from listening. I just thought it was funny. Thought you guys would appreciate it.
No, that is funny. It just reminded me of this thing that I have with my phone. So I have this app that tells me when the garage door opens and closes, and my little Maltese goes nuts because she thinks it's, mom coming home.
Oh yeah.
But recently that same sound has started playing on like alerts from Best Buy and different apps.
Really?
So every time it does this ding that it only used to do for this one app, now the dog thinks that somebody's here.
And goes crazy.
Yeah. So I understand how that is.
Hey, Mike and Gibby. This is Victoria from Southern West Virginia. I'm actually calling because I'm listening to some of the older episodes, just going like from new to old to catch up. But I was at work listening to one, and I had to call you immediately because I thought it was just so, I had to tell you this interesting fact. But I'm listening to the Dana Flynn and Michael episode, and you guys were talking about Pentecostal churches and people talking in tongues and stuff. But I want to tell you guys, I actually went to a Pentecostal church here in West Virginia when I was younger, and not only did they speak in tongues, they would have, like, when someone would stand up to speak in tongues, everyone would, like, go silent. It's like a church thing or whatever. And then they'd speak in tongues, and then they actually have this guy in the choir, or he plays guitar sometimes. He is a tongues translator. I don't know where you go to learn such translating skills, I guess, but he can actually, quote-unquote, translate tongues to English, like whatever the God is supposed to be saying through the person in tongues. So I don't know how that works, but I just thought it'd be interesting to tell you guys. I absolutely love the show. I listen to it all the time at work. You guys keep me going at work. So have a great day. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep your own time ticking. Bye.
Very interesting.
It is interesting.
I assumed that you were going to say that you can do that as well, and you took an online course or something like that.
I was a tongue translator back in, junior high.
Yeah, that was a different type of
translating.
No certificate needed.
Yeah, there was none needed.
Exactly. All right, buddy. That is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
Hold on to your jingle bells. Pluto TV has all your holiday favorites for free. Enjoy Christmas classics like Scrooge with Bill Murray or Last Holiday with Queen Latifah. Plus, dive into festive channels like Holiday Movie Favorites by Lifetime or Hallmark Movies and more. Download the Pluto TV app on all your favorite devices and start streaming holiday favorites on live channels and on demand. With thousands of free movies and TV shows, Pluto TV is your home for the holidays. Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.